Legacy, 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 legacy. I came from holding back to moving with intention, from playing small to stepping into purpose with conviction. Every step I take now it's bigger than just me.
Thank you for watching another episode of the Legacy Discussions podcast. I'm your host, Taisha Beard. I am teaching you how to leave legacies and not liabilities. So today, y'all, I've been asked several times to talk about tax liens. So I have decided to talk about tax liens today and my experiences with purchasing tax liens over the years. So there's so many pros and cons to purchasing tax liens. And so I'll give you a little bit of how the process works. I'll tell you specifically how it works in the state of Louisiana because that's where I have done most of the business. But I have done some research on like Texas, Mississippi, and so forth. But let's just jump right into it. So, if you are interested in getting into the real estate investing industry or market, one of the easiest ways to get in is to purchase tax liens. So, what is that, Taisha? So, a tax lien is if an owner of a property does not pay their taxes, it ends up on the state auction website. And this is where investors like myself can go in and buy or pay the taxes for that particular property. It could be land, it could be a structure on the property, or it could even be commercial real estate, whatever. But you get to pay the taxes on that particular property, and then you pay on it for a certain period of time. Now, here's the things about the state of Louisiana. There is what they call a redemption period. A redemption period. And what that means is the owner of the property has up to a 3-year redemption period to come back, pay the taxes, outstanding taxes on that property, and then they get to take it back. They get to take back the ownership, right? Technically, they never lose ownership, but the taxes is assigned to whoever wins the tax bid in that tax year if it goes to the sale. So, what does that mean? So let's just say an owner has a property and it is not, the taxes and insurance, let's just say it's not being escrowed, meaning when you make your payment, there's no part of that payment that's going toward paying your taxes, right? If it's not escrowed. If it is escrowed, when you make your payment, part of your payment is already including your taxes. So the mortgage company will cut a check at the end of the year to take care of the taxes for the property, right? So it does it for you. But there's instances where there's some mortgage companies or some lenders who do not require the taxes and insurance to be escrowed, right? I'm gonna focus on just taxes for now to not confuse you with insurance. So there's some lenders who do not require that. And that means you are responsible for not only making the payment on that mortgage, but you're also responsible for paying the taxes at the end of the year on that property. And if you don't, then it can go to a tax sale, right? To where somebody purchases taxes. A lot of times you see this when the property is already paid for. So, like older homes, or somebody buys it cash, a lot of times you'll see where they may forget to pay the taxes or they don't have the funds to pay the taxes. So, at a certain period of time, every year, these properties go to an auction site. It could be a state site, a parish or county site, and they go to this auction for investors or people who are interested in buying or paying the taxes for that tax year. And then from then on, that the taxes is assigned to the bidder or the person that won the bid. So, prime example, I go on every year to Zeus auctions.com. So that is Zeus auction.com. This is where a lot of the counties and states will put their tax sales, right? They will announce it on Zeus. You do everything through Zeus. You buy, you bid, everything through Zeus, right? Not every state uses it, but there's a lot of them do. Louisiana's being one of those. So I go on, I find out which parish, because there's parishes in Louisiana, which parish is having the tax sale, the date of the tax sale, and then I determine if that's a parish that I want to buy in. I've bought in St. Tammany Parish, which is Slidell. Of course, I buy in Baton Rouge, East Baton Rouge Parish, which is Baton Rouge. And then I've also bought in Ascension Parish, which is Gonzales, Prairieville, and so forth, Donaldsonville. So I go and find out when those parishes are having their tax sales, and then I log in, and then I start to bid. You can find properties on that site of unpaid taxes as low as $150. And then I've seen some as high as $20, $30, $40,000, depending on the value of the property will likely determine how much in taxes you'll be paying. So if you're buying if there's a commercial building and their taxes haven't been paid, 9 times out of 10, if it's a big enough building in a nice area, the taxes are going to be more expensive than $150, right? It could be $10,000. It may be one that you want to pay for because you've been eyeballing that building and you want to buy it. But normally the ones that have like the $150, the $300, the $500, the $1,000 taxes on it, those are normally smaller properties. Sometimes they can be blighted properties. Sometimes it can be just land. A lot of the properties that I have is just land. Buy it anyway because it's inexpensive. And then, of course, you wait that 3-year redemption period in the state of Louisiana. So you go and you buy. Once you buy, that doesn't mean you own the property. The owner still has, in the state of Louisiana, 3 years to come back and buy that property or pay the taxes, let me say, on that property, and they take it back. What are you out of if that owner comes back in year 2 after you've paid the property taxes for 2 years? You're not out of anything. The owner pays you a little bit of interest, and they do all of that through the state and local offices. They take care of those taxes, they pay it, and then the state or the parish sends you a check back for your investment that you've paid, and then a very fraction amount of interest. It's a very, very small amount. So you're not going to get rich off of this, right? But it can be beneficial to you if you win the property. That's where the money is. So I might buy or bid on 10. I might win 5, right? Meaning that I've paid the taxes on those 5 properties for that tax year. Guess what's going to happen next year? The county office is going to send me another tax bill for those 5 because now it's saying, hey, she paid the taxes on these last year. She's going to pay it again. So I get another bill for the following year for the amount of the taxes. I pay again. The 3rd year, same thing. They send me a bill. I pay the taxes on those 5 properties. Now it has met the 3-year redemption period. That's not the end of it. You still don't own it yet. I'm taking you through this process. Now what you have to do is there's a 6-month waiting period. So now you have to get an attorney involved, which I would recommend, or you have to try to figure out and file this paperwork yourself. And the name of the paperwork is a notice to quiet the title. A notice to quiet the title. I have my attorney to file it for me. And what they do is they go down to the courthouse, they file this paperwork, and they're saying, hey, my client has paid the taxes on this property past the 3-year period or up to the 3-year period. And now the owner of that property is past their redemption period. In that 6-month period is where they have to file things in newspapers and local sites and all to try to contact that owner, the owner's family, that last time before they then say, hey, nobody's coming around, nobody's paying, no family members coming up. Now you get to file, and now you can put that property in your name. At that point, once that 6-month period has passed after the 3-year redemption period, and you filed your paperwork, now you are the owner of that property, right? Now you can sell it. You can put a structure on it. You can, if it's a house on it, now you own the house. You can fix it up. You can do whatever and rent it out. It now belongs to you. Now, the thing is, it is a process. Obviously, it's 3 years. There's a lot of times I have purchased and won the bid on a property, paid the taxes, and then 2 years later, owner comes and redeems them, right? So the goal is not to buy or pay the taxes on one. The goal is to have a budget. And if your budget, let's just say I got a budget of $5,000, I'm going to buy or pay the taxes on as many properties as I can up to that $5,000 mark. That means you should have quite a few, which means some of those you won't win the bid. That means some of those the owners will come back and redeem the property because, oh, it slipped their mind. They forgot to pay their taxes, so they went ahead and paid the taxes. And there will be some that will never come around. The owners will never pay. The family either doesn't know or don't care. And you end up winning those properties and you can sell it and do what you want to do. But again, it is a process, right? So it's not something where you're going to get rich by just saying, oh, I just bought these 5 properties. I own them. You don't own them until past the redemption period. Now, I mentioned in Louisiana, that period is 3 years. In Mississippi, it's only 2 years. In Texas, it's 120 days to 6 months. So depending on what state you're in, what county or parish you're in, that redemption period could look different. So you have to do your research for the market that you're looking to buy these tax sale properties. Okay. So again, the pros of this is the more that you bid on, the more that you purchase, the more the higher the percentage that at the end of that redemption period you will have some properties that you can move forward with in the legal process. Now, if you decide to hire an attorney, of course, that attorney is going to charge you to do the paperwork. I rather do it that way to make sure that once I claim it as mine, everything is done right in the courts, and I'm not trying to figure out and backtrack and learn this myself. I'm a big, I'm a big. Let me say this. Let me back up. I am big on hiring the people that are the experts than trying to be the experts myself. So I hire the attorney to get it done. Now, the cons. Here's the cons. There are times where the county offices can make a mistake. And I found this out the hard way. So there's been some that I have quote unquote won. And then it gets down to it and it comes back that, hey, that property should have never been on the tax website. There was a mix up. And here's the thing that can happen. Is it wrong? Should that have happened? It should not have happened, right? The state, the county, whoever should have checked their process to make sure that what they had on there was indeed something that should have been sold. But are you going to fight the city? Are you going to fight the state? Right? Get ready for a battle if that happens. So there is some cons. There is some risk to that because if the state or the county messes up and they should not have placed that property, they're only going to give you what the tax amount is back to you. So if there was any other fees associated, right? Let's just give an example. I paid $1,000. The taxes was only $300, but there was other state fees and filing fees and other things that was included in that $1,000. You don't get that back. The it's going to be too bad, so sad. That's part of the risk. We'll give you the amount of the taxes, which in this example was $300, but the rest of it, that's your loss. So that can happen. That has happened to me before, and I want to say I was only out like $300. And in my mind, do I want to fight the county on $300? It's going to cost me more than that to get an attorney. My time ain't worth the $300, right? So I took that on the chin. Here's something else that could happen. And this didn't really cost me anything, but it was more of a frustration. There was 10 acres that I purchased on a tax sale in Mandeville, Louisiana. And there was a barn on it. I could care less about the barn unless the barn had some gold in it. I was more concerned about the 10 acres. And so I bought it and it was $1,500. Paid for it, done. What? 10 acres, $1,500? Again, that's only for year 1. You would have still had to pay year 2, year 3. Year 2 comes around. I get the tax bill and I'm thinking, oh, it should be somewhere about $1,500 again. It was $3,500. So which means they had reassessed it and it was more. I was still going to pay that $3,500 because again, yes, I paid $1,500 the first year. Second year, they wanted me to pay $3,500, but we're talking 10 acres. And we're talking 10 acres in Mandeville, Louisiana, which is a desirable city, right? To live in and to build in. When I called them, I did ask, like, hey, what happened to increase the tax assessment from $1,500 to $3,500? They then start to backtrack and say, well, you know, it wasn't supposed to be on there, so we're actually going to take this one off, so you cannot purchase it even for the $3,500. Again, was I upset? Did I try to force the issue? Like, no, I am going to pay the $3,500. I got the tax bill. They said, ma'am, you can pay it if you want to, but we're taking it off the site. It's not available anymore. Again, what you going to do about it? Fight the state, fight the city, fight the assessor's office. You just move on, right? So those kind of things do happen and can happen, and it's happened to me before. So the best thing that you can do is know that any investment, be it your time, be it your money, be it real estate, be it stock, whatever, there's going to be some type of risk involved in it. So you got to go in knowing that. To me, I feel like the risk in certain tax sales, if you keep your budget to where it's low, can be very minimal compared to some other risks that are larger. So that's some of the cons, but it is definitely something I would still say is an easy entrance into real estate investing. Okay, so now let's talk about once you win the bid. I'll give you a story about there was a piece of property in Ascension Parish. It was a small piece of land. There was no structure on it. Believe it or not, when I saw it on the website, because everything is done on the website for Ascension Parish in terms of their tax sales, and you don't necessarily see the property. I just knew it was within my budget. Again, I'm just trying to buy as much as I can. So I buy it. I didn't even know where it was. But once I won the bid, I said, well, let me go see what I just paid for. And so I'm driving around. I see that it's next to a daycare. It's a very, very small piece of land. What happened is the daycare owner had been trying to buy that property because they wanted to take it and extend their parking lot. Well, now once I pay for it, now it's registered. I don't own it, but it's registered under my name, my business name. So what happens then? The owner of the daycare starts to call me. They can pull this information up. This is public information. And they say, hey, Beard Properties, let me find out who Beard Properties is so I can call them. So my phone starts to ring, and it's the daycare owner. Now, I know year one, I do not own this property. I'm not going to tell them that. All they see is that it's registered to me. So year one, she calls and she says, hey, we noticed that you're the owner of this property that's next to our daycare. Are you interested in leasing it to us? I know legally I couldn't do that because I didn't own it. So I put her off. I said, hey, I'm not interested. I just want to keep my property. I knew I still had 2 more years for the redemption period. So year 2 comes around. I pay the taxes. I'm still getting phone calls because this lady's still interested in buying the land. Year 3 rolls around. I'm like, okay. Call my attorney, got all the paperwork done, waited the 6-month process, got everything filed with the state. I now own the property, right? I reach out to the daycare owner and said, hey, guess what? I'm interested in either leasing this property to you or I'm interested in selling it. And long story short, I ended up selling her the property. Now, the taxes on that property for 3 years total, the 3 years that I paid the property taxes, I want to say it had to be a good $1,000, $1,500, right? The attorney's fees was another, call it $1,500. So now that's $1,500. I'm in it for $3,000, right? Those are my total expenses for it. And I think maybe one time I had the property, the grass cut. So I'm in it for $3,000. I sell it to the daycare owner because, again, small strip of land. I'm just trying to win. I'm not going to do nothing with it. I sold it to her for $23,000. So all I had to do was pay the taxes, know the process to get the attorney to file the paperwork to get it in my name, and I make a $20,000 net profit. Now, that's only on one particular property that I'm talking about. There's still others that I have. Some I haven't even seen yet. I've won the bids. They're in my name. They're pieces of land. I haven't even taken the time to go see them. I just know I own it. So eventually, now that I have more time and capacity, I'm going to go see where those properties are somewhere in Ascension Parish. And I'm going to have it sectioned off, get it appraised, and maybe I will sell it or maybe I'll build on it. But I say all that to say it was a very inexpensive way for me to enter into the real estate investing game, in addition to the other strategies that I'm using. So some of the multiplier women that I teach that are saying, hey, I'm not ready to really come up with, $10,000, $20,000, $70,000 to go and buy something big or a multifamily or a house. But I got, it in a small account, I have $3,000. Then I always say, have you paid down your debt? One. Two, do you have an emergency fund separate from that $3,000 you may have in an account? And if the answer to that is yes, and are you okay with some small risk with that $3,000? And the answer is yes. And I'm like, okay, here's a way that we can jump into it. Now it is a waiting period, but let's maybe start here. The key to this thing is not to wait every 3 years to buy, because that 3 year period has to keep recycling. The goal is, and objective is, to buy something every year. And then what happens is, once you get to that first 3 years, every year thereafter, there should be something that's coming due. So now every year you got something that you're owning now. So give you an example. First one I bought, our first taxes that I paid for was in 2020, which means in 2023 I was able to start doing my paperwork. I bought again in 2021, again in 2022, again in 2023, different properties as they hit. So which means in 2023, when I was able to do that first redemption, I was able to do one in 24 from that 21. I was able to do one in 25 from that 22. And then every year, the cycle repeats itself. So every year, if you continue to do that, once you reach that first 3 year period, every year thereafter, you'll have properties coming available that you can possibly move forward with and putting in your name. And now it's your asset. So one of the things that somebody mentioned to me is they said, well, most of the time those properties are going to be, elderly people or people who, they forget that they owe taxes. And do you feel like you're taking advantage of them? Here's what I say. Absolutely not. If I don't buy it, somebody else will, right? If I'm not paying the taxes on it, somebody else will. So how is that taking advantage of somebody? I would also say that if at a certain point nobody buys it from the auction or nobody pays the taxes, guess who then takes over? The city. The city has no interest in being a landlord or a property owner. The city wants your taxes. The city wants to be able to fix the roads, build schools, do all the things that they want to do. They don't want to be sitting on assets and sitting on properties. They want people. They need people to pay the taxes on these properties so they can go do what they want to do. And then the benefit to you is now you own the asset after a period of time. So no, it's not taking advantage of anybody. I have even bought, there was an acre land in Geismar that I purchased for a very small amount that now I own. Haven't done anything with it yet, but it belonged to a family. I gave the family the option to buy it back. And here's a small story of what happened with that. Again, they called my cell phone. I get a message on my cell phone from a lady out of New Orleans saying that, hey, I think you just purchased my family's property, my family's land. And then I called her and I said, what happened? Like, how did y'all let this happen? It's been 3 years. How did you let it happen? And what I was not going to do is allow them to buy it back for what I invested into it, but I was going to let them buy it back at a small profit for me investing my money for 3 years. And what actually happened with that property is they said that there was a family member, one family member, who was supposed to be responsible for paying the taxes. That family member got sick, that family member quit paying the taxes, and that family member eventually, a couple years later, passed away. Well, nobody ever thought about what happened to grandfather's land. And it was a grandfather that bought that land many years ago for his family to eventually build something on that they can own. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because we have to pay attention and we have to have conversations about what we own. Somebody needs to know what we own, and somebody has to take leadership and responsibility in the family to make sure that we're not losing our assets to tax sales or losing our assets because of our own lack of information or lack of or ignorance, should I say. So we have to make sure that we keep everybody informed on what we have and what needs to happen with that asset. So anyway, this stuff happens every day, all day in every state. every city, every county, every parish. And there's a lot of people that aren't taking advantage of those opportunities to enter in at a low investment. And there's some of us that are. And so, as I've told you before, there's not a right or wrong way to get into the real estate investing market. It's how do you want to enter? What's your capital? What's your risk tolerance? And this is one of the easiest ways that I'm aware of and that I teach how to get into the market. Now, there is a strategy I use on how I bid on these properties, and I'm not going to get into that now, but if that's something that you're interested in, you can go to www.theassetmultiplier.com and book a call with me, and I can teach you these things. I can coach you through it. But I'm not telling you something that I've heard. I'm not telling you something that I've just researched. I'm telling you something that I've actually done, I've won, and I've sold based on my investment into this type of strategy. So, if you are interested in learning more about tax sales, specifically in the state of Louisiana, but if you're interested in learning about the markets where you live and that you want to invest and buy these types of properties, I will coach you through it. I will do the research with you, not for you, but with you on how it works where you live or where you want to invest. So that is the details about the tax sales. And if you go to ZeusAuction.com, that is the site that I go to. I'm giving you some gems right now. Zeus, Zeus, auction.com. That is the site that I use to buy these properties. So if you want to know more, holla at your girl. And if you have questions, comment on this video. I want to answer your questions. If you have more information to share, please share that in the comments. Like, click, and subscribe to our channel to continue on these types of conversations. So thank y'all for joining, and I will see y'all next time on the Legacy Discussions podcast. Thank you. Hey ladies, this is Taisha Beard, host of the Legacy Discussions podcast, and I am inviting you to our second annual Legacy Summit in Gonzales, Louisiana on April 25th, 2026. Join us for a powerful day of real estate, wealth, business, and legacy building. We are accepting sponsors, volunteers, and we do have a limited number of vendor spots remaining available. Get your tickets now. Do not wait. Go to mylegacysummit.com. That's mylegacysummit.com.